Inducted, John.
It's humbling. It's a little strange. Usually, I'm coordinating all this, and I'm totally in the dark, basically, about what's happening. They've kind of kept me out of it as much as possible to try to keep some surprises. Like that bobblehead was a total surprise. I had no idea that was coming. But seriously, it is nice to be recognized for spending so much time with this franchise.
You got to choose who inducted you.
Yes.
Why Tom?
Well, Tom Grieve, it's interesting, and this again is a good story. When I was working for the Orioles, and they asked permission to speak to me for this job here in late August of 1984. And when I came down here for the interview, it was Labor Day weekend of '84. And I came in for the interview. I picked up the Star-Telegram that day, and Jim Reeves was breaking the story that Joe Klein was being fired as general manager, and I was walking right into this. So I went ahead and I interviewed, and they offered me the job on a Saturday morning before I flew back to Baltimore, and it was the same day that Tom Grieve was appointed as the general manager of the Rangers. And so he and I kind of started together in the baseball side. He was my boss for a while, and then for most of the last, it's hard to believe, but most for the last 28 years, I've kind of been his boss, overseeing broadcasting and everything. And I just thought it was an appropriate tribute. He's retiring at the end of the year, and it just seemed like the right thing to do.
What does it mean to be able to share this moment with your family? They'll be out there on the field with
you. Yeah, I mean, that's big, obviously. Anybody, TR, these guys, I didn't even know the sacrifices we make and on the road all the time. And we're not home when we're home. The off seasons have become almost as bad in some ways in terms of being home and late night phone calls and everything. And my wife, Harriet, really kind of held it together pretty well. I'm lucky my kids like baseball. They like to come to the ballpark. But this means a lot to me for them because it does kind of justify, okay, you did this for all these years. At least there was something at the end of that tunnel.
Now, John, you're close to President Bush. Have you heard from him?
Yeah, I actually, with the president, you usually get if you do a letter, it's usually typewritten. I actually got a handwritten letter from him, which was really nice, and the end of it, he said, "Your pal, George Bush." So that was pretty cool. Yeah, he was one of the first ones to congratulate me a couple months ago. So that was pretty neat.
Did he offer you an ambassadorship? I mean, Schieffer got one and Stapleton got one.
No,
Like just Ghana or Sierra Leone or Namibia or something like that?
I mean, at that point, I was not into politics at that point.
I was hoping for the Maldives.
Yeah.
John, you wear a couple of different hats while you've been with the Rangers, but you also were a commissioner of Collegiate League Baseball. Of those things, seeing the youth and being a very big part of that youth movement coming up toward the majors and seeing kids drafted through not just the Texas Collegiate League but also the Northern League, what was your biggest moment of seeing that develop and getting?
I mean, it was a fun time for me. I mean, everybody, people know what happened here. I mean, I didn't get along with the manager very well, and he didn't. We had our moments. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me at the time. I got to do some other different things, do the collegiate baseball, do the independent baseball, which was a gas. I mean, it was a lot of fun. Teams like to win. And I got to go to Boston and get a World Series ring and go home to work for my, my hometown team, which was exhausting, but certainly a lot of fun. And then I got to come back here. Nolan brought me back here like Ian was saying this afternoon, for the best years in Rangers history. So I really can't complain at all at how it all came down. But that was a lot of fun.
John, I just talked to Darren Oliver, and he was around for both decades for your tenure with the Rangers. And he talked about the most important thing was you're able to adjust with social media and the players.
I guess, yeah.
How was that adjustment for you? Because I mean, obviously
It was the biggest, I mean, and these guys know, this was the biggest game changer in media coverage of all time. I mean, we thought, you know, guys that are old enough here know it was newspaper writers, and then it was sports talk and cable television, and then it was the internet, and we thought all those things were, you know, changed the game and everything in terms of the immediacy. But social media changed it to where you had to be on your game all the time, and it just changed the way we had to do things, you know, announcements and trying to give people heads up and, you know, the whole 9 yards. And it really, really did change the way you strategize things. And I don't want to date myself here, but, you know, you could, in the old days, back in the 80s, you know, one of the papers would have an exclusive, and basically at 11 o'clock at night, you basically had till the next day to let paper hit the step, and you could kind of relax. That's long gone, you know, and in terms of how you have to strategize and keep people going. I mean, it's got its good and its bad points, but it certainly has changed things immeasurably.
You, as a media relations guy, you spend a significant amount of your time working with people who are trying to tell things about the organization, but work for the organization. How have you kind of like approached that line?
What do you mean? Give me an example.
That you got to deal with us assholes on a daily
Well,
basis.
he doesn't understand your questions either.
You're a media relations guy. You had to maintain relationships with media people at the same time. You had to promote the club's message.
It's a balance. It's always been a balance. Sometimes I've balanced it better than other times. I've always tried, and I've always tried to be as fair and transparent as we could possibly be. That's always been, and I think Rich and these people agree. We try not to lead people astray on things. Maybe we did once or twice, who knows? But I mean, for the most part, you know, we try to that balance, you know, of having the best interest of the organization in mind, you know, with everything else. It's led to some shouting matches over the years, as we all know. But ultimately, that's the job, is to protect the interest of the organization and try to put the best foot forward at times when it's not that easy to do. But I think that's kind of been, you know, and again, I have not been successful on it all the time. I mean, there's things that, you know, I'd like to change the way we handle things, but I think, you know, if you take 40 plus years, I had some good teachers in Baltimore, I had some good mentors, and that's kind of, you just kind of have to you know, to roll with it as best you can.
What's the best shouting match you ever had with a member of the media?
It's probably, Amy here?
Yeah.
It's probably Fort Myers, the Red Sox,
That confirms
and
it.
Jerry Fraley. I mean, even with two, I mean, that one was probably the all-timer, wouldn't you say?
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What happened, John?
Well, okay, what was it? It was Rusty Greer's contract, right? TR knows this. It was 2002, 2001.
It had been
Well,
a
no,
while.
before
It had
that,
been a
Doug
while.
was still general. It was 2001.
Well,
Doug
that was general manager.
That was general manager.
2000.
The Star Telegram broke the story that Rusty Greer was signing an extension. And Fraley and Jerry, Evan was there, TR was there. We were playing the Red Sox at City of Palms Park the next day. And I don't know how it kind of, it evolved, but Fraley said something, and then I said something, and then Fraley said he's gonna jump down my throat. And then
Both feet, with
both
both feet.
feet. Then I said something to the same effect. And poor Amy here, Amy McLean, then Gunter, who was one of my assistants at the time, was like horrified, I think. But, you know, it got pretty intense. But then it kind of just, next day, Jerry and I just kind of made up. And I think that was probably, God, there's been others. But I mean, I think if I had to
Wait, I remember when Amy jumped my ass at Dodger Stadium one night. So don't think she's some angel. She got mad at me because I asked an innocent question. I'm like, oh my God, John trained her well. Jeez.
Okay. We good?
Yeah.
Everything good?
Thanks, John.
Thank you.